What if I told you that Lewis Hamilton regrets having signed for Ferrari? What would happen if the 7-time world champion wants to leave Maranello after just one season and can't? Well, Nico Rosberg, who knows him better than anyone, has dropped the bomb. What's really going on behind the scenes at Ferrari? And what future awaits Hamilton after the most humiliating year of his career? When Nico Rosberg talks about Lewis Hamilton, there is a unique tension in his words. It's not just that they shared a garage during Mercedes' most intense years. Rosberg has witnessed firsthand what Hamilton represents for Formula One and, perhaps more importantly, what Hamilton represents for himself. In a recent intervention, Rosberg dropped a truth that many suspected, but no one dared to say with this crudeness. Lewis Hamilton, after only 1 year at Ferrari, wants to leave. He wants it deeply. He feels that he has made a mistake, but he can't do it. And here's the interesting thing. Rosberg does not present this as a simple case of frustration. He describes it as an existential dilemma for a champion. It's really trapped, he says, and that word trapped is the key, because it does not refer only to a contract or a complicated contractual situation. It refers to a symbolic prison, one in which pride, reputation, legacy, and expectation outweigh any clause written on paper. Hamilton arrived at Ferrari to write a new golden chapter in his career, a move that was both sporting and symbolic, leaving Mercedes after more than a decade of success to embrace the romantic challenge of returning glory to Maranello. But the 2025 season has been a monumental failure, one that has left Hamilton isolated, helpless, and, according to Rosberg, emotionally battered. The most disturbing thing about Rosberg's analysis is not that he says Hamilton wants to leave. He claims that he cannot do so without betraying everything he has built as a public figure. To abandon the Ferrari project now, after barely a year, would be to admit that it failed. It would be accepting before the world that his last big move was a mistake. And for someone who has built his career on the image of control, power, and purpose, that is unacceptable. Rosberg adds another brutal nuance. Who are they going to replace him with? This is not just a rhetorical question. It's a reminder that even if Hamilton left, there would be no graceful way to do it. There is no heroic exit plan. There is no clear alternative. Only the emptiness. Just the feeling that the last great act of his career ended on a sour note. And that is devastating. We are talking about a driver who has rewritten all the record books. More than 100 poles. More than 100 victories. 7 championships. And now, trapped in a car that doesn't work, on a team that has lost its way, and in a narrative that has turned against him. Hamilton's legacy is at stake, not because he has lost races, but because he is at risk of ending his career quietly, without glory, without redemption. And Rosberg sees him clearly from the outside, as an old rival who, perhaps, today understands better than anyone the weight that his former teammate is carrying. The truly tragic thing is this: Hamilton cannot win. If he stays, he may continue to sink. If he leaves, he will do so with the shadow of failure on his shoulders. And that is the emotional paradox that Rosberg forces us to confront. The big question in the air is not whether Hamilton can still be champion. It's much more human. How do you survive the moment when you realize that your big bet was an irreversible mistake? For Lewis Hamilton, the 2025 season has stopped being a sporting challenge and has become an open wound. It is not simply that the results have not arrived. The fact is that, for the first time since he stepped foot in Formula One in 2007, he has gone a full year without getting on a single podium in a major race. Not a drink. Not even a champagne. Not a victory lap. Nothing. And when we talk about Hamilton, we are not talking about just any driver. We are talking about the greatest winner in the history of sports. The man with the most pole positions, the most victories, the most laps led. Someone whose presence on the grid guaranteed excellence, consistency, and ambition. But in 2025, that legend has been reduced to a driver trapped in a mediocre car, with no tools to fight, no answers, and with an environment collapsing around him. Ferrari promised a golden era. The expectations were stratospheric. After a solid 2024 campaign, with convincing wins and increasing performance, Hamilton's arrival was sold as the final step needed to return to the top. The plan seemed perfect, in theory. But reality hit harder than any prediction. The single-seater, the SF25, was born defective. Its design, based on an ultra-low ride height, shattered after the first races, when a configuration error led to the disqualification of both cars in China. That incident didn't just mean losing points. It was confirmation that the entire technical concept of the car was poorly planned. From there, Ferrari had to fundamentally modify its approach, raise the height of the car to avoid penalties. But in doing so, they destroyed their greatest weapon, the ground effect. The car lost downforce, balance, performance. What was left was a volatile chassis, unable to stay within the operating window, extremely sensitive to minimum conditions such as wind, temperature, or even tire pressure. Hamilton had no chance. And worse still, he was clearly surpassed by his teammate Charles Leclerc. We are not talking about a slight difference. We are talking about a 22-7 in classification. An overwhelming figure that reflects not only Hamilton's difficulty in adapting, but also the lack of absolute confidence in a car that never responded to his hands. Hamilton finished the season 86 points behind Leclerc. But that number doesn't tell the whole story. Because beyond the points, there is the visual narrative. Every weekend, every Saturday, every Sunday, it became more evident that Hamilton was out of tools. That I couldn't squeeze the car. That he was disconnected from the machine, struggling to find something, anything that would allow him to compete. When a figure like Lewis Hamilton goes into crisis, the entire Formula One stops to watch. Because we are not talking about just another pilot. We are talking about a symbol. A champion who has redefined the sport for more than a decade, and who now faces something much more challenging than a slow car. The emptiness of not having control. After a season as catastrophic as 2025, the question is inevitable. What options do you have left? What can a driver do who has won everything, but now sees his last big bet become a burden? The answer is not simple. Because Hamilton isn't dealing with a simple drop in performance. You are facing the collapse of an entire legacy project. Hamilton arrived at Ferrari with a very clear narrative. Close his career with an epic story, leading the most legendary team in motorsport towards a new era of glory. But what he found was chaos. An uncontrollable car. A team without direction. An internal structure that left him isolated from day one. And that isolation is the root of the problem. Hamilton has always needed environments that listen to him. Engineers who translate their feelings into solutions. Strategists who adapt the car to your style. At Mercedes, he had it for years. But at Ferrari, he didn't find that synergy. From the first tests, the body language between him and his race engineer was cold. Post-race meetings seemed more like technical defenses than progress conversations. The environment was not only incompatible with his way of working, he was downright hostile to his leadership. Technically, the situation was even worse. Unlike Leclerc, who has known the Ferrari ecosystem for years, Hamilton had to adapt his style from scratch. Change your corner entry. Modify gas management. Redefine your braking sequence. All to fit into a car that didn't belong to him. That it wasn't built with him in mind. But the hardest thing is not that. The hardest thing is that all that effort did not bear fruit. No podiums. No consistency. No signs of progress. Just frustration. And here comes the big question. Can you just quit? In theory, yes. But in practice, no. Hamilton has a contract with Ferrari until 2026. Breaking it would not only imply a huge contractual penalty, but also a declaration of defeat that would damage his public image. Leaving the team after just 1 year would not be seen as a strategic decision. It would be read as a gesture of surrender. As if the champion who could do everything couldn't take it anymore. Additionally, options outside of Ferrari are slim. Mercedes has already bet its future on George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. McLaren is closed with Norris and Piastri. Red Bull is not even a possibility considering their internal focus and Verstappen-centric structure. Aston Martin might seem viable, but it does not have the technical level or the sporting project that would justify the change. And any other team would mean starting again from scratch, with an even less competitive car. So what do you have left? You have to resist. Try to influence from within. Force technical changes. Restructure the team around him, even if that implies a political fight with the upper echelons of Maranello. Find a voice in the development of the car of 2026. Bring together your trusted engineers. Recover, even partially, the feeling that you can influence your destiny. But that, in a team like Ferrari, is not easy. Because Ferrari doesn't change quickly. Ferrari does not easily give up control. Ferrari is not redesigned at the whim of a driver, no matter how champion he may be. And here is the real dilemma. Hamilton is at a turning point. He can't leave, can't compete, and it can't wait. Because every race he passes without results erodes his legacy. Every weekend off the podium pushes away the possibility of that 8th title that he is chasing so much. And what is at stake is no longer just the present. It's how he will be remembered. There are silences that weigh more than defeats. And right now, Hamilton is in one of the deepest depths of his career. Because if Hamilton manages to get back on track and close his career with a competitive resurgence, There is no need for him to be champion, it is enough for him to fight at the top again, then his adventure at Ferrari will become a story of redemption, in a feat of perseverance, in the definitive proof of his greatness. But if he doesn't succeed, if 2026 is just an extension of the current failure, then his exit will be gray, silent. And the dominant narrative will not be that of the eternal champion, but that of the man who bet everything on a dream, and lost it. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.